Hello and welcome to Paul on Politics, our regular review of all the week's political news and analysis live on KMTV. On this week's show, one of Kent's hospitals is finally in the recovery room after a turbulent period, but does it signal an improving prognosis for the NHS in Kent? And has a solution been found to the problem of HGVs parking overnight in residential side streets and other areas? Our guests on the show this week are Conservative County Councillor Mike Whiting and Medway Labour Councillor Alex Patterson. Thanks to both of them for joining us. First, he's the politician in charge of Brexit, but he doesn't seem to know how important the Dover-Calais route is to UK trade. Dominic Robb told the conference that he hadn't quite realised how reliant we were on the cross-channel route. Here's a taste of what one Kent resident thought about his comments.
Rob, I didn't think it. This is the Brexit Secretary, Dominic Robb. He's the man in charge of Tory basket case Brexit, mercilessly mocked for confessing I didn't quite understand the close proximity of France to lampooned online. The absolute idiot has only just realised a lot of our food arrives by boat.
Well, jokes aside, Mike, and that was very entertaining. He should know better, shouldn't he? I mean, this is more than a verbal gaffe. He came across as ignorant of his role.
Well, I think, you know, he clearly knows. He clearly knows the importance of Dover and Calais. And
yeah, but he said he didn't.
He said he didn't. I don't know when he learnt, but at some point in the recent past, I'm sure he would have been told. We've been lobbying ministers, as you know, Paul, for months and months, and we've been telling them how important that route is through. It takes an enormous amount of traffic. It takes the largest proportion of any traffic across Channel. And Dominic clearly knows now. He's clearly got the message, and we just need him to act now.
Alex, I imagine this is all grist to the mill as far as you're concerned. The Brexit minister not knowing what he's talking about.
Well, I think it just underlines the arrogance and the bravado that we've seen from the cabinet on so many issues. You know, it's a really big world for this cabinet. Just a few weeks ago, we had the Northern Ireland secretary telling us that she didn't, up until the point she took on her brief, didn't know that unionists voted for unionist parties and nationalists voted for nationalist parties in Northern Ireland. And now we've got the Brexit minister who doesn't seem to understand the closest route to Europe.
We all make slip-ups sometimes when we say things, don't we? And politicians are like the rest of us. This could just have been a verbal kind of slip-up.
I don't think it was. I mean, I admit that we are now scraping the barrel with some of the cabinet ministers that we have under Theresa May, but he knew what he was saying, and I think that this betrays a greater ignorance.
And I would argue against that clearly. I mean, I don't think in any way we're scraping the barrel. I think we've got a cabinet full of very capable people.
So he sticks in the job.
I'd rather believe it's a slip of the tongue, as you suggest, Paul.
He misspoke, as Hillary Clinton once put it. OK, well, if Dominic Robb is confused, you can understand why some travellers are uncertain about journeys across the Channel. Eurotunnel bosses have, however, tried to play down the prospect of chaos after next March. Christina Curtis reports.
With less than 6 months to go, there has been confusion over how Brexit could affect the service. Research by Eurotunnel found that post-Brexit, 59% of people don't know what will happen to their passport. 50% are unsure if they'll be able to travel to the EU with their pets. And 41% are unsure if they'll be able to drive in the EU on a UK driving licence.
We're conscious that there's increasing confusion amongst people who are looking to travel, potentially post-Brexit, that there may be some changes. So we've decided that we would set up a website where people can come and they can get the latest information about what Brexit might mean for travel with your car to mainland Europe. Anything that we feel is an area where people are looking for facts, we are there to, in one place, one sort of hub, give them that information and send them to the appropriate sources.
More than 2.6 million vehicles use this service every single year. But the concern is, will it be so straightforward to use post-Brexit?
I don't think anyone needs to be concerned about travel to and from Europe after Brexit. For the travel itself, the time that it takes, the processes that they will need to go through when they're here at our terminals, and the speed that that will take, there is no reason to think that those will change, and there is no reason at all to think that that will have an impact on the ticket prices.
At the moment, there are no definite changes, but Eurotunnel staff are advising people to make sure their passports are more than 6 months in date and have relevant PEP checks if they are travelling just after March 2019. But, as with all things to do with Brexit, the only certainty is that uncertainty is expected until next March. This is Christina Curtis for KMTV.
Well, Mike, let's come to you first. I mean, Eurotunnel is a commercial operator, so it's bound to say, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. Do you share their confidence?
I welcome their optimism. There's an awful lot of planning going on at the moment, Paul, for everything from a frictionless border through to something far worse, and all that planning is going ahead, looking at all of those scenarios, and Eurotunnel and the ports and everybody are involved in those conversations. We are so dependent on the French. At the end of the day, if the French decide they want to make life difficult with longer checks and longer passport checks and everything else, then it could become more difficult. But let's do what we can to get the traffic, keep it moving across the channel and keep it moving through the roads of Kent.
Mike, you inadvertently make a point there about not actually being in control because you can't dictate what happens the other side of the channel. Alex?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think that, I'm glad that Eurotunnel have been looking at this. We're in a situation in Medway where we've got a leadership of the council who don't think that Brexit is something that's going to impact on Medway. So it's really good that local companies are looking at the problems they're likely to face. I think it may well be true for Eurotunnel because traffic coming into the Eurotunnel terminal is only going through their operation. But if you look at the port of Dover, you've got multiple operators, you've got freight operations, and actually the potential for disaster there is far greater.
Okay, well, we've got to move on. Now, transport related, a scheme to clamp nearly 2,000, a scheme to clamp lorries in Kent to stop them parking in inappropriate places has been a year since it began, and it seems to have been a success, as council bosses want motorists to use lorry parks instead. But drivers say the scheme is unfair when there's not enough space for them to park elsewhere in the county. Joe Coshin's been looking at the numbers.
Nearly 2,000 lorry drivers in Kent have been clamped in Ashford in the last 12 months. Almost half of those motorists were halted on the A20 near Charing, while more than 700 were caught near the Orbital roundabout. The 18-month trial to ban HGVs from parking overnight in various spots in the borough mean motorists need to pay a £35 penalty charge and an extra £150 to remove the clamp, raising more than £350,000 for Ashford Borough Council.
It is necessary because the fine pays for the enforcement, and actually the stick is as important as the carrot. The operators, they've had it for so long, their operators have just said, oh, find somewhere to stop, which is uncivilised for the drivers. I mean, you could not have walked along this pavement without the stink of pee and lots of pretty unsavoury stuff around. Lorry drivers having to get out, with no clothes on, to just in the middle of the night and just use the bank because they don't have proper facilities. It's a pretty rough existence.
At the moment, lorries are being turned away from truck stops and lorry parks night after night because they cannot physically get in. There isn't the space in the county that's required. So we need to see a move towards more lorry parking in the county to support drivers in the great work that they're doing.
But an expansion to double capacity will soon mean more spots for HGVs to park. However, the FTA argue it's only shifting the problem elsewhere in the county. The trial's set to continue until April next year, but by then there'll be a bigger problem once Britain has left the EU. So the county will then have to try and solve Stack too.
Well, Mike, let's come to you first on this one. If this scheme is such a success, should it be widened out to other areas of Kent?
Yeah, I think it has been a success, and it's certainly been a success in those parts of Ashford Borough where it's taking place. The difficulty, of course, is it will displace, and there was some evidence that things got displaced into other boroughs. But from my point of view, I don't think we want to expand it until we can put a county-wide scheme in, and I wouldn't want to see a county-wide scheme in before we have sufficient lorry parking spaces to accommodate those lorries that need to park.
That's going to be a long time coming, isn't it?
Well, we're moving. You saw on the package there, the Ashford stop is doubling its capacity. There's another 90. There's a planning permission for 90 in Thanet, and there's more going in across the county. And we, as a county council, are encouraging that and working with the providers and working with the hauliers to see where best we can put these, because we do need them urgently. The sooner we can get them in, the sooner we can allow the lorries to park legally and avoid these fines.
Alex, this is a problem across all parts of Kent. You have to travel around and you can see lorries parked in lay-bys and so forth. Would you like to see it widened out to other areas?
Yeah, we need that joined up thinking. I think it's right to say that we need to look at this in the round, but it's obvious the problem. We are the end of the line for freight traffic to Europe. And so it's got to go somewhere. We hear so much about the just-in-time approach to modern business. But what if those lorries are just ahead of time? Where do they wait? We need to actually offer them a real alternative. If they arrive slightly early for their crossing, where do they park? We need to make provision.
Mike, let's just bring us up to date. Where are we on the big lorry park plan?
Well, the government is working through. As part of the Brexit negotiations, the government is, as I understand it, working to identify parking spaces for lorries. Kent County Council certainly is working with people.
There's no site being identified yet.
No big site has been identified yet for the parking of lorries. But I don't think that's the solution, Paul. I think the solution is a number of smaller parks across the county, because it's not just a case of people turning up early. This is them taking their rest breaks that they need.
When we come back, the Kent Hospital has turned the corner finally, and trouble on the buses. Don't go away. Welcome back to Paul on Politics, live on KMTV with our guests Mike Whiting and Alex Patterson. Now, there hasn't been much good news for Kent hospitals over recent times, but the opening of a £21 million accident and emergency unit at Medway Hospital is being seen as a sign of a brighter future. Poppy Jeffrey has the story.
It's been a long time coming, but finally it's complete. Medway Maritime Hospital has a new £11 million specialised emergency department. It's been delayed 4 times, but has finally now opened 6 months late.
So you're standing in one of the new bays in our new resus, which is opening this Thursday, which is very exciting, as part of our new build. Which means we can offer state-of-the-art resuscitation facilities to our patients. It's a big step up from our old unit, which was, we did some amazing stuff there, we've saved people's lives, but now we've got facilities to match what we want to do, which is great.
This is Stacey. She's really helping the nurses at the new resus department in Medway Maritime Hospital learn the new layout ahead of the first patients. I'm currently in one of the bays here at Medway Maritime Hospital, and in front of me you can see one of the dummies that's used for their simulation exercises. Now, this gives the nurses and doctors a chance to practice what it would be like in a real-life scenario before it all goes live later today. The new emergency department consists of 7 new resuscitation bays, 4 rapid assessment area bays and 4 majors bays, all accessed through a dedicated entrance for ambulances to bring in patients. It's a big step forward for a hospital which is only just starting to adjust to life out of special measures. And hospital staff hope it's one which will pave the way for the future. This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV in Gillingham.
Alex Patterson, £21 million on a hospital in Medway, that's good news. The government's delivering on its promise of more investment.
Well, no one's going to knock a gift horse on the mouth. We absolutely would welcome any investment in Medway Hospital. However, we have to look at this in the picture of what we had just a few weeks ago, which is the loss of the bid to run the stroke service unit for the hyperacute stroke service unit for Kent.
But this is a sign of things getting better, isn't it?
But this is about acute care, and that's one end of the system. But we still have a situation across England in the NHS with 4 million people on waiting lists. So actually, this investment, while it's important at the acute end of the market, if you like, it doesn't deliver for those people who are waiting for operations.
Mike, you obviously want to jump in here.
Well, I mean, you sound like you're looking to give tools in the mouth. I think it's a great investment for the hospital. The hospital's been running through some bad times. It's clearly coming out of those bad times. This massive investment in this new A&E unit is very welcome indeed. And part of that enormous package of reinvestment that the Conservative Party are putting in. The Labour Party promised however many millions it was at the last election. We've put in spades more than that.
Yes, but your commitment involves taking money away from other areas related to health, like public health services, for example. That's how you're getting £4 billion into the hospital.
We're putting more money into hospitals, £390
at the expense of other areas,
into the NHS as a whole, and I think that's a welcome investment for the NHS.
But there's going to be less
No,
funding for public health.
But absolutely not. I mean, every government through history has put more money into the NHS. That's just what you have to do because it's an ever-growing market. But in real terms, the NHS budget is not getting the investment that it needs.
It's getting
if you think that investment is enough, then tell that to the people who are still on waiting lists.
I didn't say it was enough. What I'm saying with respect is that it's getting more under this government than was promised at the last election by the Labour Party, and I think that's a great thing. So this is a good investment in Medway Towns, good investment for the people of Kent and for the people where I live in Sittingbourne and Sheppey who use that hospital.
One interesting issue around this money being invested in the new A&E unit is that there's £33 million of backlog of repairs at Medway Maritime Hospital.
Yeah, I mean, you have to talk to the trust about. Yeah, there are backlogs. Of course, you could always put. Alex is right. Yeah, everybody spends more money every time, every year. You get more money in, and there's always more you could do. But while we do get something good and new, like this hospital, and the further investment that's coming into the NHS, then we should welcome that. I think.
It's not the full picture for the Medway Maritime. It's lost the hyperacute stroke services. There's talk of it losing vascular services. So we don't actually want the Medway Maritime to become a hospital where you go with a broken arm, but for any other significant care you're having to travel to other hospitals across Kent.
No, but
we're the biggest conurbation.
I think again, decisions about where care happens are taken on the evidence of the medical profession.
I think it flew in the face of evidence. That's what happened.
I would have loved to have seen it for people where I live, having now to travel much further afield than going to Medway. It's an issue for them. Of course it is, and I would like to see that decision reversed, and I'd like to see it come to Medway. But these decisions are taken on medical grounds, not investment grounds, thankfully, by politicians.
Well, the reorganisation of health services is going to carry on as a big issue for the county in weeks and months to come. Now, going to school on a bus is something thousands of Kent children do every day, but for one 11-year-old boy, the journey wasn't quite as straightforward as he hoped. Christina Curtis reports.
I was really shocked and I was worried, and also I was freezing because it was raining so much. I was really cold and I wanted to be on time for school, so I was really worried and nervous.
This is the stop where every morning Sam waits for his bus to take him to secondary school. Yet he says just last week a new driver refused him on the journey.
I was walking to my bus stop like normal, but it was drenching with rain, and when I got on my bus I can normally get my bus pass out, but I couldn't get out as my hands were so slippery. I asked the bus driver, please may you help me get it out, and he went no, and then I went, please may I get on the bus for today, and he went no.
He says that his hands were too cold from the rain to get his pass out of the holder to scan it, but that the bus driver could clearly see it. His mum has since complained to Stagecoach.
His friend's mum hadn't have taken him, then how would he have got to school? Would he have been safe? You put your trust that when they go to the bus stop, and he always goes to the bus stop and meets with his friends, so to keep safe. And yeah, then he's left wandering around trying to find out how to get to school. And so I was just disgusted, absolutely disgusted.
A spokesperson for Stagecoach said, "We were very concerned to hear this. We expect our drivers to make decisions best on the welfare of the customer involved. We are looking into the exact circumstances, and we are very sorry that on this occasion this passenger did not feel he could travel with us. We will review what happened in this case and ensure any lessons are learnt for the future."
Well, Mike, this is nothing to do with KCT, of course, but there is one particular issue I wanted to ask you, and that is about the young person's travel pass and the costs that face many parents, and some criticism that you're not permitting the payments to be made monthly by direct debit. Just bring us up to date on that.
Well, just bring it up to date. I mean, the Freedom Pass is enjoyed by tens of thousands of young people. It offers a much reduced travel cost for parents who wish...
nevertheless, it's quite a significant sum, particularly if you've got one or more child.
Yeah, it's £290 a year. On average, KCC subsidise each pass by about £400. Remember, this is the most generous scheme outside of London, and it simply doesn't exist anywhere else.
Well, I don't know whether you answered my question there, so I'm going to bring Alex in.
Well, you know, this is why we have to look forward to the next Labour government, because actually we have a policy to bring in free bus travel on publicly run bus services for under 25s, so this issue will be resolved.
Okay, well, maybe there's some consensus over that. I don't know.
Well, no, I don't think there is. I don't know. That's completely uncosted, unaffordable. We spend about £10 million a year on the Freedom Pass. If we were to make it free of charge for everyone up to 25, we'd be putting a massive bill on the ratepayers of Kent.
It's a public service. The problem is, at the moment, we have private companies like Arriva and Stagecoach sucking the money out of our bus services. They need to be publicly run. For the many, not the few.
Oh, for the many, not the few. I've heard that somewhere before, I'm sure. Finally, it seems a lot of us get into the festive spirit earlier each year. According to a survey, 1 in 5 of us has apparently finished their Christmas shopping already, not me. Those behind the survey believe it's because British families want to spread the cost, but what do you think? We asked some shoppers in Chatham.
I've started not presents but food shopping because the best bargains are before Christmas. I've done things and put them away in boxes upstairs in the spare bedroom. So I've started the food shopping, not presents yet.
Because I always leave it till like the last couple of weeks. It's not good like that, but I do. Like lots of people, I suppose.
Yeah, she's nearly finished. Just a few more bits to go.
Not yet, no. I'm just like waiting and see if there's any deals on.
Yes, I always start in January doing the Christmas paper and cards with the half-price sale, and then through the years I buy things. When the shops were closing down, I got quite a few things, and I suddenly realised by the end of August that I was done. Not usually that quick, but I was this year.
Well, we joined the early rush and asked our guests to come up with a present they'd like to give a fellow politician. So, Alex, what would be your gift and to whom?
Well, she's not on my Christmas card list, but I would like to buy Theresa May a walking holiday, because I hope that she has one and feels inspired to call the general election that this country needs.
Mike?
There we go. No, I'd buy a former Kent politician, Anne Widdecombe. I think I'd buy her some dancing shoes and get her back on Strictly Come Dancing.
Well, I think I'd give mine to Dominic Robb, and it'd be a day trip to Calais on the Dover ferry. OK, well, that's all from us here at Paul on Politics. Thanks to our guests for coming into the studio. We'll be back soon. Meanwhile, you can catch up with all the latest political news in Kent by logging on to KentOnline.co.uk, listening to KMFM, following me on Twitter at Paul on Politics. Have a great evening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.